Welcome to our members-only video series, where we interview a number of clients about the impact of shared ownership in their businesses. Come along to hear from owners and cooperators about their challenges and experiences. So Shane, I'd appreciate if you could introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, and we'll be leading into a question around what inspired you and your team to choose a cooperative model. But to kind of lean into that direction first, how about giving us a little background on you and what you do and kind of how you got to our doorstep?
I'm Shane Gring, and I am the first board president and working member of Certainly Cooperative. We founded ourselves in January of 2025, and we are a cooperative focused on helping certification leaders do more business online. We organized through a cooperative because as our last business project was winding down, we saw an opportunity to work in a much more democratic fashion with the workers that we were organizing with, and the opportunity to offer sort of a distributed ownership model was really compelling to the group that was interested in this new venture. And so it just became very clear to us that the cooperative was the most efficient and effective way to meet those goals and to organize the work that we were doing. And we worked with Jason and team to found that.
Was there anything in your background that opened up your mind to the cooperative model?
One of the things that opened my mind to the cooperative model and a more democratic approach to the workplace was my involvement with the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016 and 2020. Those ideas had never really crossed my plate. It wasn't something I grew up thinking about. I had a very kind of capitalistic American identity that was imbued in me as a kid and as a child. And as I grew up, and even not even in college, touched on those ideas, but as I was a young adult, um, and getting involved with those campaigns just showed me a different way of approaching the world and approaching work, approaching democracy, and it just continued over the years to resonate with me that a kind of shared approach is the best way to organize government, um, business, and kind of had this dream for a while to replicate that in the work that I did, and finally have the opportunity to do so.
That's a great story. Resonates, I'm sure, with a lot of people. Well, speaking of, what were some of the biggest hopes or goals that you had when forming as a cooperative? You alluded to some of them in your earlier response.
When we founded the cooperative, some of our underlying goals were to sort of get past some of the barriers that we had in our prior working relationship. We worked for kind of a traditional technology company. Everyone's compensation was very shrouded in mystery. Decisions were being made that we had no influence over or even a say in. We were all just working and trying to make an income. And that just over time continued to grate on us because our particular team operated in a much more collaborative way. We tried to be open with each other on um, the kind of cash flow that was involved with the deals we were making and whatnot. And so it just became contradictory in that last dynamic where sort of these values we were all creating and sharing together as a team just weren't being reflected in the corporate structure we were engaged in. And so certainly was born out of just taking those personal values that we all had kind of built in our together and trying to overlay that onto a more corporate structure, and have those values be consistent from individuals to the business itself.
How did the process of forming the cooperative challenge or surprise you, if at all, either logistically or culturally or in any other way?
In our discovery process, as we were considering how to incorporate or how to organize ourselves, and started to learn a lot more about cooperatives. We participated in an accelerator. We started following people, getting more exposure to this as a practice. We just uncovered a world of people that were already doing this that we had not quite realized before. It still somewhat feels in the nascent stages, but there's a lot of people that are working on these types of problems, that are experimenting with models, that are working together to advance these ideas. And so there's this pretty large ecosystem that we soon learned about. We thought we were being innovators or pioneers here because so much of our peers and communities weren't as exposed to these ideas, but the ecosystem exists with a little research.
How would you or maybe any of your co-owners describe any feelings that you have about how the cooperative model is different than your prior or any other traditional model? Is there any kind of experience that's been different? Any anecdote or story stand out?
One of the more compelling things over the last 6 months of this process is how we've leveraged this positioning as a co-op to have conversations with potential clients or people that would want to work with us. Um, and I could say very enthusiastically how proud we are to lead with that in our storytelling or our pitch um, as a way to empathize and relate with the other human beings in the room regarding the types of people that they could work with if they partnered with us. We can be very clear about our values. We can talk about how the money that they'd spend with us is going to individuals and to kind of helping each other out. So it's really changed and allowed us to pull through sort of the more human aspects of our work into the delivery of the work, into the positioning of how we sell ourselves. And it has opened a lot of very interesting conversation with potential clients as they consider us against some of our competitors or peers in the space. And we think it is a really differentiating part of our message that we've found to be pretty strategic.
Have you gotten any specific feedback about that? Have clients told you anything about your cooperative identity that made a difference?
The things that we hear back from other prospects or existing clients is that they feel there seems to be an elevated amount of trust that is endeared through that information or that understanding of how we work. Um, they understand that there's probably less things hidden. There's more understanding and shared knowledge within the staff. There's not um, these divisions of labor. And in our market, like often when agencies pitch or in front of people, they promise the world. They promise access to all this talent and specific people. But what is often seen is that once the work is won, that starts to get passed down to more junior people or offshore or things to that effect. What we can offer is the name, the specific person, and both know that they are skilled and competent, but also owners of the business as well, which I think um, has allowed our clients or prospects to understand that what we're selling is truly what's on offer when it comes to working with us.
What was it like to work with our firm through the cooperative formation process?
Our experience with the team has completely sort of changed my understanding of how law works, and it gives us a lot of confidence moving forward with our members and our clients and potential partners and having the backing of a group that sort of knows what they're doing here and that can help us project a similar level of confidence in reaching out to new people and new relationships.
That's so cool to hear. Thanks for sharing that. Were there any ways that our firm's cooperative aligned values or approach helped shape your own experience of the process, maybe on the front end or throughout? And I'd also expand that to include were there any particular norms that we shared or other kind of values that we talked about that you kind of saw or felt manifest in our work with you?
A deciding factor for us when selecting a legal team was in particular the depth of knowledge around cooperatives and experience in how those manifest. We wanted to work with someone that had done it before, that had a roadmap, had experience in our particular dynamic. And so when we talked to Jason and team, it just was very clear that they had the right experience for a group like ours and were willing to build upon their experience as well. We didn't just follow a kind of a template when we formed. We were able to bring some creative ideas as far as how we were structured to get to the exact place that we wanted to, that was within the legal confines of the various states that we're in, and able to follow our own path, but within guide rails and with expert advice at each step of the way.
If you were to give advice to another person or group that's looking to build a cooperative, let's say, what would you tell them? What did you wish you knew before starting the work with an attorney that you may know now?
Looking back to 6 months ago when we incorporated our group, the advice I'd give myself at that time and the team is that it ended up being a lot less daunting and complicated and scary as you thought as when entering to this dynamic. It's easy to start an LLC, just go online, you fill out the form, um, and you have a business, but and not to say that founding a cooperative is that easy, as easy as that, but with the right team and the right buy-in from your group and a lawyer involved from Jason's group, I think it became a much more simple and straightforward process to where those like potentially scary things or unknown things sort of quickly disappeared, and we had a really clear path forward. And now, fast forward 6 months, we have the sort of dream model that we had always thought and desired. We have the democracy and the voting. We have the profit sharing model for patronage. We have compensation schemes for our teammates. We have great deals for our clients, and so it 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 got we got to our end state, our goal, far more quickly than we even thought possible. And while it takes a little work to kind of educate yourself and get familiar, I think there's plenty of resources and people willing to spend time for you to get there. You just need to know where to look and find some people that are willing to help.
Great. Again, speaking of some of those last comments, how has your cooperative model actually benefited the members financially, culturally? Are you hearing any bits of feedback? Are you noticing anything about them? You've worked with these folks now in, different contexts. What outcomes can you point to and say, you know, this is connected to us being a cooperative?
Folks have been able to travel a lot more generously in this new structure. Our policy is a much more not a allocation of hours. You sort of make your own schedule, and that's something we all agreed to commit to, and has provided some cool opportunities for people to take longer trips, to not have to check their Slack every 5 minutes while at the beach. I think it has provided a nice new work-life balance that we probably had before, but we just because it wasn't a policy or it wasn't an expectation our former employer said it, we stressed out about it or we had that as an anxiety that I think now that we make those decisions together can feel more comfortable enjoying the time that we're not working.
That's really beautiful. I don't know that enough people really appreciate how structural some of these structural some of the psychology is. And
Yeah,
so, just kind of,
totally.
it's not trivial, but making a change to your structure and corporate structure and other things as you said, can have fairly immediate psychological and emotional benefits. That's just beautiful to hear. I mean, that's always been the hope and the dream and the theory, and to hear it in practice is awesome. Well, kudos
Absolutely.
and congratulations. I have one last question here. As you know, thinking about the UN's designation that 2025 is the International Year of Cooperatives, and their theme in particular, that cooperatives build a better world, in what ways do you think that your cooperative or the cooperative model contributes to a more just, resilient, inclusive, local and international community?
When it comes to Certainly's work and our contribution to our community and how we make it more just, more resilient, more verdant, inclusive, uh, I think we achieve that pretty explicitly through the clients that we uh, seek to serve. It certainly works in the certification space, and we serve clients that are building solutions to create better buildings, better organizations, and better cities, spaces, and buildings. Um, and so, with that clientele, we're able to provide solutions, marketing, technology, advice to allow those programs to run more efficiently, to reach more people, and to create environments that are use less energy or less water, that encourage companies to have more diverse hiring practices or better health benefits for the employees. Uh, by enabling those types of organizations with the tools that and services that we offer, we think we have a pretty profound impact downstream. And the fact that we're now a cooperative, I think, allows that benefit to transfer up and down with us and our clients by having healthy workers in a better environment that are being paid fairly, that are supporting these businesses and these firms downstream that are also uh, demonstrating and promoting those values down to the consumers.
That's great. Well, Shane, co-founder and board president of Certainly, thank you so much for talking to us about your journey and what your experience has been like in these formative months as a cooperative, how that's connected to the broader global movement. I appreciate you sharing all of that.